Welcome to African Voices. This is episode 7. This is where we have conversations about Web3 technology on the African continent. We discuss perspectives on a variety of topics with the idea of developing an appreciation for the context, identifying the challenges and the opportunities to get involved and make a difference. We're in for a very special treat. Our guest is Bradley Azegele. I saw Bradley speak at the Eat Safari last year, September 2023. Very, very impressive individual, sharp dude. He's involved with using a variety of technologies, so artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, IoT, and then some. So fascinating use cases involved with conservation, wildlife conservation, and then also issues around waste management and the environment in and around Nairobi. So it's going to be a great show. Before we get started, take a moment, smash the like button. It helps us bring you this content. And do share it with others who you think you might, this show will be recorded, so do share this information with others that you think would find it helpful. Also use the comments and we'd love to hear your feedback as we go, as we get on with the show. All right. And with me is Austin M2. Welcome, Austin. How are you doing? Greetings from Florida.
I'm doing phenomenal. I'm in outer space right now. I don't know if you can tell.
Yes, look at that. Yes. Excellent.
I'm absolutely excited to jump in the conversation.
Right. Yes, and helping us, in the background is Ray of Light, who's there and working the slides and making sure that this the show goes on. You and I both had a very fascinating conversation yesterday, looking at what's happening in Africa, and about the Web3 clubs and the development. And so there's, the impression I get is that there's a lot of great talent and people making things happen here. So so let's get on.
Kareem, let you know real quick. You have a little bit of feedback and echo, so I don't know if you have echo cancellation turned on or not, or might have to put headphones in.
Let me try. Yeah, I've been having problems with StreamYard, so let me use this microphone here. Does that work?
Any better? You sound good. Yeah, no echo. Okay. You sound good. A little bit of an echo still, but you might just have to mute every time you're not talking.
All right. Okay, so let's bring on Bradley. Bradley, karibuni, welcome. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
That doesn't seem to be working here.
Doing great. How are you?
Got him.
Okay. So, Bradley, you're engaged in work with wildlife conservation in the Mara and waste management in Nairobi. Fascinating, quite diverse. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get started? And how did you end up where you are right now?
Yeah, so journey is a bit short, but mostly done. So 2020, after finishing high school, is when I decided to look at what can I actually do. So a bit of research in that the COVID period, landed myself interested in blockchain technology in general. So exploring multiple chains, so ended up looking for which ones actually have a use case, because most of them were mostly I'd say fintech focused, where they want to enable transactions, but I wanted to identify a use case that I could actually apply in my present environment. So that's how I ended up discovering Helium and meeting up with Stefan over Discord. And then we deployed a few Helium gateways. That's 2022, most like 2022 throughout the year. And then at the end of the year is when we participated in the Kenya Wildlife Trust and SNI hackathon, which was focused, which we developed the alert system for human-wildlife conflict. And then now earlier in the year, 2023 is now when we've begun on the waste management project. So a bit short, but it's been quite an intense journey. Yeah.
Right. So and how, tell us, help the audience understand what is Helium. You talked about the Helium network, and what's special about that.
Yeah, the Helium network is it's a network that works at the intersection of IoT and blockchain. So the LoRaWAN part of the Helium network allows for devices such as sensors, sensors which are now like asset trackers, field level sensors or door sensors, which would now connect to the LoRaWAN network. So you can imagine a LoRaWAN network to be similar to Wi-Fi in the sense that it provides connectivity for the asset trackers or other types of sensors, in comparison to Wi-Fi, which would provide connectivity for like your mobile phone, your laptop. So they're the same, but the only difference is LoRaWAN is a bit longer range and is used by low power devices. So how Helium ties the two together is that each sensor packet that is transmitted, so every packet of sensor data that's transmitted on the network has an equivalent transaction that happens on chain. So that is how the integration between Helium and blockchain exists. There's a bit more we can get into. Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about the application of this technology in the Masai Mara, right? You've been doing some work there with this, as you said, human-wildlife interaction, right? I've got a bunch of slides. Ray, could you just bring up those slides? So here we have a map of Kenya, and in the red circle is an image of is where the Masai Mara National Park Reserve is located. And then I think you're also doing some work in Tsavo, and that's highlighted with the yellow circle. So we're talking about the Masai Mara, which is an extension of the Serengeti. It's about the size of, gosh, what is it? Rhode Island, say, for our viewers in America. Whereas Tsavo National Park is about the size of like Rhode Island or Maryland. Okay, so we're talking about huge areas. Masai Mara is about it covers about 563 square miles. And next slide, please. This shows a map of that particular area of the National Reserve. And one of the reasons, and the next slide, please, is that this is why people come to the Mara, among other things, is to enjoy the wildlife and see the wildlife. Tourism contributes about 10% to the GDP of Kenya. So visiting national parks in Kenya is a big thing. Next slide, please. And where the park ends and where the grazing lands begin is not fenced, right? So can you just speak to how you saw this situation, and how are you using this technology to address this livestock human interaction?
Yeah. So during the hackathon, we were given an amount of data that that recorded the amount of the incidences of conflict that happened in the Masai Mara. So paired with that data was the coordinates data of where the conflict was occurring. So we saw that a lot of conflict was happening at the Conservancy Reserve border. So that border, as you said, there is no physical fence, but from there we identified that that is the primary place which conflict occurs outside. Conflict occurring within the boma. So the boma is the homesteads of the Maasai community. So we knew we deduced that for conflict within the homesteads, building fences was the best solution for that. So we didn't suggest any other solution. But for outside the boma is when we created the alert system that involved collaring the cows. So putting a collar on the cows to track their location, and then giving a tracker to a herder that would alert them. Sorry, that would alert them when they're getting too close to the Conservancy Reserve border. So when they're getting close to locations where conflict is known to occur, that they may act accordingly to move away from that area. So yeah, that's the solution that we proposed.
So a little bit of background is, the challenges around here is that you have lions and leopards that will prey on the livestock, right? And then in return, you have some retaliatory killings, right? Or even poisonings and what have you. And over the years, there's been sort of reduced tolerance for these predators, and there's been greater encroachment, right? So we're starting to see more and more of these conflicts happen, right? So there's this tension between the habitat loss and encroachment of agricultural settlements, the human wildlife conflict, and then also disease transmission. And so tell us a little bit about this workshop. This hackathon? Who organized it, and what were they attempting to address?
Yeah, so the hackathon was organized by Kenya Wildlife Trust and Sovereign Nature Initiative. That was back in 2022. So as part of Sovereign Nature Initiative's Tracing the Wild project. So there were two challenges that were presented. So there was what we participated in, which was human wildlife conflict and lion identification. So for lion identification, there was a proposed system that would use Raspberry Pis and Vision AI to identify each lions that won. It was by a group of female coders. I have unfortunately forgotten their names, but it was an ingenious solution. And there was now our solution that tackled human wildlife conflict. So outside after the hackathon occurring, so there was the follow-up activities that were done by SNI and Kenya Wildlife Trust to bring further awareness to what was happening. So in Nairobi Design Week, they made an art presentation where they took lion data of 3 lions that was collected over 10 years, and then they turned that data into different art pieces. So transmission of data from CSVs into an art piece to further create an awareness for the same was something we found pretty interesting. Yeah.
And how long was this hackathon, and what was the response? And can you comment on the talent and the kinds of resources you had available to you, and what emerged from that?
Yeah, so the hackathon was 3 months long, The resources, the hackathon, I think, was 3 months long. Yes, so from January to November. No, not November backwards. Then the resources we had available, there was SNI had partnered with Esri, so that's where we visualized some of our data. There was Ocean Protocol. Ocean Protocol provided some Ocean Protocol and Kilt Protocol had some resources, but those were mainly focused for the Lion ID side. Yeah, we mostly used Esri and the data that was supplied by Kenya Wildlife Trust to now propose that solution. Outside that, there was now the leveraging the Helium network that we had experience with to show how we can actually use the trackers to create the alert system. So those were some of the resources that we used.
Cool. And what was the response from folks who participated in the hackathon?
Yeah, from folks who participated in the hackathon, it was mostly positive. There were a number of, there was, I think, over 20 teams that registered, and the final, we ended up trying to collaborate with some teams, but the response was in general very very positive, because teams weren't limited to Kenya. They were international teams. So there were some from Switzerland, and parts of Europe, and then also Kenya. So we had like quite an amount of support from the hackathon organizers. So what we were able to sit together with the teams, and during these sessions that were called campfires, where we discussed and shared views on how we would develop a solution based on the different challenges that we were solving. So yeah, there were different discussion sessions, and we explored holistically how to actually deal with the problems. Yeah.
And for the non-tech people in the audience, tell us a little bit about what is a hackathon? What does that mean, and how does it work?
Yeah. So a hackathon is a competition. I'd like to say it's a competition. So in general, it's a competition that's sometimes focused, that has a coding element to it, and then you develop a solution. Most of the times, hackathons take place with a day timelines of about a day. But this one was a bit different because it was, I think, 3 months to actually develop it. But yeah, a hackathon is a competition where coding is involved. Yeah.
So it was like you get together for sort of intense periods and brainstorm, look at solutions, code, test, verify, try and think outside the box, right? And then you'd come back again and revisit this, right? So this happened over a period of about 3 months, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
And then the idea of using these callers, and how did that all come about with and the partners with the technology? Who came up with that solution? And how did that unfold?
So yeah. Previously, we were developing a solution for tracking vehicles. So that's how we started out. We were like, okay, we are doing conflict mitigation, but the technology we were proposing to track vehicles, we could potentially use it to now actually solve conflict in the Mara. So we got in contact with a few manufacturers, and they made that already made some devices that would serve the specific function that we intended. And that's how we just reshaped reshaped the solution from being an asset tracking solution for vehicles into an asset tracking solution for now wildlife, the cattle and wildlife. Yeah.
Right. Austin, any thoughts, questions?
Yeah. I'm loving the conversation, and I love the the genius that you're sharing with. It's like you guys discovered there's a problem, and people from all over the world or internationally, like you said, Switzerland, Europe, Kenya, came together to solve this problem in this hackathon. And I love the ingenuity of using the IoT, using Raspberry Pis, and the Vision AI that you said. So I'm loving it all. I mean, it's incredible to me. I think it's awesome to see that we're using some of this technology, that y'all are building really cool stuff, that you're taking matters into your own hands as well to solve these problems. You understand that there's technology that can solve it, and you're not going to wait around for other people to solve it. So I love that part. I did see that y'all were using some NFTs with those on one of the slides that said NFTs and Tuma. So I was curious as to what that meant. Um, but no, I think it's incredible. I think this is really cutting edge stuff that we should be looking at all over the world, and how can we use the technologies we have. I love the idea of utilizing helium as well, because that is a huge problem across the world, is connectivity. People have it's not 5G wireless internet everywhere around the world. Is I'm in the United States, and so I'm fortunate that we have great Wi-Fi, great internet here, but all over the world is not the same. So the more that we can build these decentralized wireless networks and build up this infrastructure networks to where people can have instant access to internet and lightning fast internet, the better it will be. So I'm loving it. I'm loving learning. I'm love seeing that you're taking matters to your own hands. I love seeing using the technology to the best of your ability. And I'm excited to see how you're solving some of the problems in the wildlife arena. But I just wanted to give you some kudos. I'm fired up over here listening to this.
So let me just add. So a couple things that might have been lost in the conversation is that, look, they're using this technology. They put collars on lions, right? So we can track. So you can track where the lions are and if they've crossed boundaries. You've also got sensors on the cattle. Is that correct? So if they do some unusual movement, that can trigger an alert that says that something's up, right? And there might
Is there
be
an issue
an
with
encounter.
sorry, Cream? Is there an issue with like the lions attacking the cows or the cattle? Is that
That is the issue.
is that part?
There is no fence.
Okay,
There's no fence, and so there's this
gotcha.
encroachment between where the Maasai are herding their cattle, which is their wealth, and where the lions like to roam. And what has happened is sometimes in the past, one of the solutions is to poison some meat. So then you're introducing poisons into the ecosystem, and that causes all kinds of havoc. I mean, Kenya's lost about 40% of its 40% of its wildlife over the last several decades. So there's this tension um, between agriculture and the tourism and protecting the wildlife and the ecosystem. So Bradley, so what happens? Who's monitoring the system, and how does it work in the real world?
So I think I have one of the trackers that we propose for using. So this is what would go on the cattle, so on the ear of the cattle, and then it's a solar ear tag. So it has a solar panel here, and it has a LoRa chip inside it, and that allows it to a LoRa chip and a GPS chip, so it gets its location from GPS, and then now transmits that to a gateway that is set up in the Mara, and then there's the lion collar ear tags. Those I don't have on hand because they're a bit expensive. But there is what now the harder would have is something similar to this. So this has the ability to vibrate. So when they would get a bit too close to the conservancy reserve border, they'd now get an alert from this that you're moving too close to this area where conflict is known to occur, and then they can direct themselves accordingly. There's some functionality that we foresee to implement is that since we already have the trackers on the wildlife that has been done by Kenya Wildlife Trust, is to now create a way to alert when a lion is coming too close to the herder. So that would also add for situations where it's not on the conflict is not at the conservancy reserve border. Maybe a lion has breached the border when it's being told to go find a new home when it's getting into puberty. So that's what happens if they get chased away from their pride. So if you have such a case and it's coming too close to some homesteads, they'd also get an alert. So when that happens, so you can also have an alert when you're at the border, because yes, you can build fences, but the lions also do destroy the fences when they want to predate the cattle. So yeah.
So this also has implications on compensation, which is a big issue, and what happens when cattle are killed by predators, and if you are tracking these devices and they're on the chain, then you have a transparent mechanism of identifying where the incident happened, right? And is that being used now to address insurance issues and things of that nature? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's not yet being used, but it's some functionality that does exist, since it's possible to prove that this sensor, there's this possibility to prove a sensor location. So yes, GPS can be spoofed, but by using LoRa, you can create a way to estimate where a sensor was at a certain time, using the signal strength from the sensor and to the gateway. So that creates a proof of sensor location kind of implementation that now would serve to aid in now verifiability of sensor data, which now adds to the compensation for insurances, where Kenya Wildlife Trust only collects data once a month, so they only do rounds on a per house basis once a month, where they ask, has any of your cattle been predated, or do you know any reports of any? And then they go collect data of how many and where it was, but that data is not the most accurate. So this would help in the accuracy and speed of reporting. Yeah.
Right. And what kind of support have you got from the lodges and the folks who provide spaces for tourists to visit the Mara?
Yeah, reaching out to the lodges has not been the easiest. So initially we were planning to deploy our gateways at the lodges, but then we had to take a few steps back and then actually contact a local telco and ask them that contact them and ask them that if they have locations within the Mara that they have coverage, so that we can deploy on their sites to serve this purpose. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Austin. Any further thoughts before I'm going to switch topics now and talk about solid waste management? But anything before?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understood it all correctly. So more so just summarizing it. Essentially, the people of that region, they're called the Maasai, is the locals. and Maasai have most of their wealth is from their cattle. And the problem now is the lions are going and attacking the cattle, and if that happens, it kills off the wealth of the Maasai. So to find a solution for it, they've started poisoning the meat, and that's caused. So when they say poisoning the meat, that's poisoning the cattle, I'm assuming. So when the lion eats the cattle, it poisons the lion, so they stop attacking the cattle. And that's caused 40% reduction in wildlife throughout Kenya, which causes further problems. And so coming up with a solution, fences are not really a solution because it doesn't really keep the lion out and they degrade over time. So y'all have put sensors on the cattle and the lions, and GPS wasn't enough to track all of it. So you've had to do the combination of LoRa, which it blew my mind when you're talking about trying to find the precise location. It's the strength of signal from the LoRa sensor to the gateway, and that's how you're able to find the precise location. And so yeah, I think it's amazing and how y'all are able to fend off the attacks or at least alert people. One thing I was curious about is, so when they do get alerted, say I'm a Maasai, I get alerted that there's a lion approaching my cattle. Now there's people that are going out, and I'm trying to imagine this in my head, so I'm sorry for the ignorance. They're going out and fighting the lions, or they're just steering them away, driving up to them and scaring them off to keep them away from the cattle, or how are they keeping the lions away once they do get the alert that they're coming towards the cattle?
Yeah, for the most part, they just do scare them off. They're advised not to attack them, and most of the times, attacks only take place after cattle are predated. So, the attack on wildlife is normally a retaliation when their cattle is predated. So yeah.
Wow, I think it's amazing. I appreciate you sharing this. This has opened up my brain to a lot more possibilities out there what this technology can do. I'm curious how it can be integrated into blockchain. There are some hints at like a compensation model, or just even a verification of data. So I'm excited for that part, and I'm gonna have to do some digging into this. This is really cool stuff. So I appreciate you. I'm gonna have to share this episode out with a lot more people and everybody listening. Like, comment, subscribe, because this is incredible stuff that Bradley's sharing with us. Kareem, I'll pass it back over to you, but my mind is just exploding over here. I got a note page full of notes over here, just not noting it all down. It's very cool stuff.
Right. Very, very impressive. Okay, so we're going to switch from conservancy to solid waste management, right? Tell us about all of that. You're doing some work with Taka.Earth, and I've got a couple slides. Ray, if you can bring them up. We were talking about the city of Nairobi. The metro area is about 5.5 million people. And we certainly do have issues around how we dispose of our solid waste. This shows a couple images in an area called Dandora, which is about 11 kilometers out of Nairobi, sort of going northeast. Next slide is you see what's happening is you have folks sorting garbage, burning garbage, and the image on the right is by the garbage dump where they're burning these toxic materials right next to a school. That blue building is a school, and that's a yard playground just on the other side of the wall. And the next one is disease, and yeah, that next slide, from plastics and just trying to dispose of waste material in the city is quite a challenge. So hopefully that sets up the context. Tell us about how you got involved and where you're going with this and how you're using the technology.
Yeah. So end of 2022, I think. Got in contact with a mutual friend who has a startup, Taka Earth, Kelvin. So we started conversations, and they expressed to us that they needed a solution that would that would allow them to prove that their waste is from where they've sourced it. So they needed to add a layer of verifiability through blockchain technology that would aid in their sustainability reporting. So they reached out to us, and then we brainstormed a bit, and we said that what we currently have is this trackers. So what we proposed is, what we're doing with them actually is now tracking the waste as it moves from tracking trucks as they move from the recycling factory to where the locations they go pick up the waste, and then back to the recycling factory. So you have proof of that transit and the source of the waste. And then it's returned to the recycling factory. So when they give their waste to the recycling factory, they also get a recycling certificate attached to that. So paired with that recycling certificate, they also have a record of the truck moving from point A to B and then back to point A. So that is one thing we do with them. The second thing that we're doing with them is they're building a smart bin. So that smart bin will take a record of each type of waste that is put into it, and then we're supplying them with a solution to monitor the fill levels of the different bin compartments. So this is as a result of the Sustainability Act 2022 of Kenya that now mandates residentials, commercial spaces to sort their waste at their premises before it's transported to be disposed of either at a recycling factory, a dump site, or other. So for that, we have a fill level sensor that fits inside a bin compartment, and then monitors the level of the bin as it fills up, and then reports back when the bin is full. Then the truck moves along to actually pick up the waste. So yeah.
And did you had a hackathon around this too, right? Looking at solutions for this?
No, this was more developed rather organically.
Okay. Right. Austin, thoughts, questions?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I guess when you're not involved in that infrastructure, I guess, that you don't understand the problems it faces. So I guess just for example, I throw something away, I take it to the trash can, and then it leaves my mind. I don't think much of it after that. And I didn't realize that a problem was that the disposing of the waste after it leaves my trash can, and trying to figure out what to do with the waste. And then, so I know in the US, a lot of times that we have these dump sites, and then after it gets so large, they lay grass over it and it turns into a field or turns into a golf course or something because of how much land. But the fact that it's being transported to the middle of the city and burning it off and releasing toxins and waste into the air that can start causing cancers and diseases and whatnot, it's a huge problem. So salute to trying to come up with solutions with that, with the separation of what materials and what trash is being disposed of. And yeah, I mean, just thanks for enlightening me, and I want to learn more of what kind of solution y'all are coming up with that, and how the technology is integrated into it.
What has been the response of the municipalities and local and national governments to this, the adoption of this technology? Have they facilitated this? Are they helping? What's your take? What's your experience been so far?
Yeah. So currently the bin should be finished. The prototype of the bin should be finished next week. Should be finished next week, and then be ready for a full demo. It's more of working with so Takaat's business model is they sell data, they don't sell the trash. Rather, they sell consumer data from the waste. So what that enables them to work with FMCGs on this. So they're working with a company, I don't know if I'm allowed to say. So they're working with one of an FMCG that is enabling the process of now building of the bin and actually implementation of the bin. So it's not yet gotten to a municipal kind of level, but there have been estates that have requested for the bin at that level, so that they can collate their waste and then dispose of it.
And this technology is being developed in Kenya, or is it being brought from outside? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so everything is being the most parts of the bin is being developed in Kenya. There's the Technical University of Kenya that is also providing some machinery to be used to actually make the bin. So at the university, they opened their doors, I think, last year, to allow for the private sector to actually use the machinery. So they have a number of lathes and CNC machines that is being used to cut up the sheet metal, do the welding stuff, and there's some Arduino parts that are also being made locally. There's some hardware being imported to actually make the process of building the PCB possible locally. So we're trying to build as much as possible locally and then import a bit less here.
Right. So this is very impressive. What's happening here is, I just wanted to get your thoughts on, on working at the leading edge of innovation and technology in Kenya, right? Tell us about your experiences and of how things have unfolded, how receptive are stakeholders and what have you. What are the challenges and issues with the public in general, if there are any, or awareness and what have you? Can you speak to that about bringing about change in Kenya?
Yeah. So in general, when technology is mentioned, people become very hesitant, especially if you use all the keywords like blockchain and the blockchain tech or LoRaWAN or IoT. So they become a bit hesitant. So if it's to the public, the consumer of the technology, we reduce the amount of complexity that we present to it and only focus on the fundamentals. And with that, they are more receptive to it, especially if you focus on value systems. You focus on their value systems and show how they can benefit directly from it. In the larger ecosystem, there is a lot of policy development on the current technologies, so blockchain technologies in specific. Blockchain Association of Kenya is doing quite an amount of work alongside Impact Plus, and a few other organizations are really spearheading for friendly regulation in the blockchain space. And outside that, also some IoT stuff, IoT laws on our end, but this was more focused Africa-wide, because in Kenya, the IoT laws are, for the most part, clear, but there's other parts of Africa where it's a bit unclear. So there was a helium improvement proposal to now actually define the LoRa frequencies, to harmonize the LoRa frequencies Africa-wide, so that now we are able to not only deploy the human wildlife conflict solution in Kenya, we'd also be able to deploy it in Tanzania, since currently the frequencies are different, but if you have the same frequency, then it becomes a non-issue. So that's the general technology space.
Very cool. Austin, any thoughts? And while you're doing that, Ray, have there been any comments from the audience? Comments, questions for Bradley?
No questions. Been lots of comments, but yeah, everybody's just really pumped and just excited. Because, like I said, there you go. You're amazing. I love these forward movements. So cool to protect the ranchers, cattle, and animals. I mean, people are, they love this conversation. Great stuff.
One question I'd have is, what is the? I guess this is focused on the problem in Kenya, or the Maasai, and then also the waste management in Kenya. But what are the possibilities of this expanding to other regions of Africa, and then also other regions around the world, to solve this problem as well? I guess it's focused on solving the problem locally and solving the problem first where you're at. But what are the possibilities of this being able to be used across the world in other regions, or just in all total of Africa itself?
And I think I lost connection for a bit.
Yeah. Okay. So while we wait for Bradley, I think, one of the other things, the other dimensions of all this stuff with waste management is that, is the accounting of and the potential for using regenerative finance, right? Waste management, climate change, and what have you. So I'd be curious also to see what's happening with organizations like Green Climate Change of Kenya and other civil society organizations. Bradley did mention Blockchain Association of Kenya. We had Kakai with us last episode, talking about what we're trying to do with the bill, right? So a lot of innovation happening in Kenya. It's very exciting. And I was hoping to get Bradley to talk about how to get other people involved. Here he is. So Bradley, what messages do you have to the global and the local community about getting involved?
About getting involved, come say hi. Most of the time, we're just looking for people who would like to, who have possibly an ability to contribute. Maybe it's your skill set or in any other capacity. So if you have an objective to achieve or want to help out, just say hi. We talk to a number of people. If we will not be of help directly to us, we'll know which direction to point you at. So yeah, it's just hello@BLCK.
And what are you doing to create more Bradleys to solve problems in around the world?
There's what is being drafted. It's a meeting next week. I'm not sure I can talk on it yet, but there's something to create more Bradleys in the working. So yes.
AI, clone you. Take everything in your brain, put it into AI, and clone you. I got a question, and it's more of just like thinking out loud, I guess. So with the waste management, I'm just gonna call them smart bins, if I understood it correctly. They're creating these bins, and that's able to track the waste that's being put into them. So just thinking out loud, is there a possibility where, let's say, each residential house gets this bin that's able to track if it's recyclable or whatever it may be, and it almost like gives a ID number for that bin, and the recycle that goes from there into the municipality, into the gets to the city trash, and then with those recycles, being able to be recycled and turned into products or whatnot, if there's like some type of accounting method of that onto the blockchain, and then if that product ends up becoming something that's being sold, there's like a percentage that gets kicked back to that household that originally recycled it. So it's like incentivizing people at the residential level to recycle, because later on down the road, it can be, those recycles can be turned into products that later get sold, and then maybe they receive like royalties. So the more that you recycle, the more chances of your recycles being turned into products, services, and maybe a little kickback, and it's all tracked through blockchain accounting and whatnot. That's just an idea. I don't know if that's even possible, but it's just something that could be pretty innovative.
Yeah, so we do know of so the when Kenya Wildlife Trust makes the fences for the herders, they use a company called EcoPost. So what EcoPost does is they pick up waste, and then they shred the waste, so primarily plastic, and then they turn it into the poles for the fences that are now used to fence the Masai Mara, the bomas in the Masai Mara. So there is now the salient internal objective to be able to track a piece of waste from somebody's residential to the recycling factory, and then it's being processed into EcoPost, and then now you can draw a direct line from it up to when it becomes a fence for somebody in Masai Mara. So that's an internal goal that we do have. Yeah.
And so certainly, so you're doing work in wildlife. You're doing work in the environment and solid waste management. What else is on the roadmap?
Agriculture. So there's a number. So in agriculture, what we're looking to do is now a bit similar to the wildlife stuff, where you would provide now crop insurance by being able to measure different aspects of a plant. So if you can consistently report on a plant's health, you can now estimate on how much production it will actually make. So if you're able to make a good estimate on that, then it becomes more plausible for crop insurances to give farmers loans, or to forward buy, for farmers to forward sell their produce, and that would unlock the unlocking of liquidity will enable farmers to do quite an amount more. Yeah. It's a teaser.
And are you looking to pilot something like that? You're going to start off with a hackathon? How are you going to approach that whole that solution and that issue?
So there's just like a few private farmers that we're talking to, and then we're seeing that, okay, what roadmap can we set up, and then maybe potentially find a supporting party that would like to help us in the pilot, and then we conduct the pilot and then evaluate the data and the benefits, and then now see how we can move forward. Yeah.
Great. And how, one other question is that for young people who are aspiring to do the kinds of things that you're doing, how did you get involved, and how did you learn what it is that you know now, and what advice can you give?
Yeah. So if you'd like to get started, I started out just being on the internet and then finding something that interests you. So because there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of people who are willing to help. If you're in school, maybe try join clubs, and then go outside. Just be out there where you can find things that interest you. So yeah.
And Chantal was asking about BLCK IoT. Where do they go to say hello and hi to you?
Yeah, I dropped a website, and then if you'd like to shoot us an email, let me type this: blck-iot.com. Then you can always shoot an email there. On Twitter, my Twitter is Bradley Azegele, at Bradley Azegele, and our BLCK IoT Twitter is at BLCK IoT.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, so that's your website, and you've got a bunch of blogs where you talk about the work that you did with conservancy and waste management, right? Brilliant. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
Austin, so we're coming to the top of the hour. So any closing thoughts, remarks, Austin?
Just really enjoyed this conversation, enjoyed this episode. I learned a lot. I appreciate you, Bradley, for coming on and spending your time with us, because it's enlightened me to a lot of stuff. It's provoked more thought and curiosity, seeing the potential of IoT, seeing the potential of blockchain. And there's a lot of problems out in the world, and we need a lot more Bradleys to continue trying to figure out how to solve these problems and come up with solutions. So really appreciate it. I don't know. My neurons are firing at a whole different level this morning now after this conversation, because I'm excited to see where this goes. There's so much potential here. It's like I don't know. It's crazy. Just tokenizing waste, tokenizing crops, tokenizing the agriculture, and yeah, I mean it's just insane. So I just want to appreciate you, give you a lot of props, and I look forward to. I'm gonna follow you on Twitter. Look forward to connecting with you more. Would love to have you back on the shows as much as possible. Join us in the spaces, and just continue pushing your initiative forward, and how we can help and how we can assist. We got a global community. We're deep inside of the blockchain, Web3 and AI and just technology industries. So any way we can help push it forward, you've got an ally and a friend in me and Kareem, as well as the entire community that we're a part of. So shout out to you.
Great. Thank you, Ray. Ray, any closing thoughts, remarks?
No, sir. I think like it's like just following up what Austin said. This is great to learn. I loved how Austin was going around and seeing what you could do more with the waste management stuff. I was thinking the same thing. Obviously, with the food, you're sitting there talking about cattle and lions and what they're doing. You already got them all kind of tracked and seeing what's going on. Big problem we have here in the U.S. is the food supply. We really don't know what's organic, what's grass fed, what's all this stuff. And it's like you guys are like 100 light years ahead of us already in that aspect. So it's a great conversation, Bradley. Appreciate, like I said, all the genius kind of stuff work you're doing. So thank you. And yeah, I was just trying to in the back here just getting up all the information because I wanted to make sure everybody can follow you, Bradley. It's great stuff, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, so it's on the screen. Take a screenshot. I'll leave the last word with Bradley to close out, but let me say asante sana. It's been a pleasure having you on the spaces on the show, and we look forward to further interaction. Any closing remarks, thoughts to end the show?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a really informative session, and I enjoy sharing what we've done and what we're doing so far. And I'd like to help anybody who would like to get into this space. Just reach out. And yeah, thank you guys for this opportunity. And yeah, I'm a bit flustered. So yeah.
All right. Well done. Yes, asante sana, as Leila says, and karibuni tena.
Yeah.